it's Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. I want to give a super thanks to those of you that understood this picture. These are the church ladies of our communities, and many of us had this experience. This was our culture. If this was not your culture, I wasn't talking to you. The Black American culture is very large. There are many aspects of the Black American culture. I am a Black American. I was brought up in the church, and most of you in my audience were brought up in the church, and you understood this. And if you weren't brought up in the church, you recognize these women from the community because they were very visible and very vocal in our communities. And I stand by what I say when I say that these women produced some of the best Black American citizens that you will ever find. They are not the reason why the Black community in America is in chaos. Most likely it's the people who didn't have this experience. And I'll stand by that. And I want you to prove me wrong. Now people have got a little learning. Somebody has told them that they're Indians. And so now they want to come for everybody who won't let them shove that down their throats. I respect that. If you say you're an Indian, it's fine with me. I believe that there were African people in the Americas before Columbus. And I believe they intermixed with the indigenous people. I believe that. I also believe that some of those indigenous tribes held people in slavery. I also believe that some of the runaway slaves or enslaved people escaped to some of those Indian or the indigenous camps. I believe all of that. Those are not the people that are out here arguing about being indigenous. And don't start with me because I know about as much about what I'm talking about as you know what you're talking about. The reality is whoever was here, white folks still came over here and defeated all of you and put you on reservations or took your land, reclassified you, and made you what they wanted you to be. And the reason you were reclassified was because they saw African ancestry in you. So I'd rather be on the slave ship myself. Now I'm done with that, but we, Black Americans who came through the slave system, do have a mysterious history. I have mentioned Sister Deborah on the Redirecting channel. Sister Deborah identifies as an Israelite, and I completely agree with what she says. Mainly because in addition to using the Holy Bible as her basis of ministry, she also uses books that are not in the Holy Bible. Books that have information that are hidden from the people of God. I still was brought up in the church, and I still belong to the church, and I still respect my spiritual upbringing. All of these religions can misuse scripture, and all of them can do damage to people. I believe in a supreme being who rules and super rules this universe. He is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. And there is no man-made religion on earth that can supersede his power. His power is embedded in us, and we have to activate that power. It does not matter what church you go to or what denomination or what religion you declare. You still have to tap into the power of the true and living God regardless to what name is given. There is a superpower that rules and super rules this universe, and that has to be our guide and our direction as we journey through this life in the land of our captivity. Now back to this picture. What I found really interesting was that in the comment section, Africans and Caribbeans understood this picture. Now, they weren't brought up in Black America. They weren't brought up in our culture, but they recognize the spirit and the essence of these women. These women exist everywhere, not just in the United States of America, but they usually are tied to some kind of religion or some kind of organized religion. They are the cornerstones of the community and the church. Somebody has to be the moral voice of a community, because if you don't have a moral voice, that's when you get these communities that are in chaos that nobody wants to live in. So I appreciate the people who really understood what I was saying with this picture. These women exist in Jamaica, in the Bahamas, in Lagos, Nigeria, in Ghana, in Rwanda. They exist everywhere. They are the glue that holds the society together. They don't have to be in a Christian church. They could be in a mosque or whatever building you worship in. They don't have to be in a building. It's the spirit of these women. In my particular case, they just happen to be a part of the church, of the Christian church. The universe is vast, and there are all kinds of people. But regardless to how many people there are, if you're going to have a community, you got to have people who have a sense of morality, a sense of spirituality, a sense of organization, and a sense of community. And that's what this picture represents, a sense of community. Somebody talked about, well, there's not many people in the church, and where are they? There's a lot of them in jail. Okay, y'all, so I'm going to let this go. I just wanted to appreciate you for seeing what I was saying in this picture. In my culture, this represents the church. But in somebody else's culture, it might represent something else. But these women exist everywhere. And I'll end with this. One of my favorite shows from way back in the day was Little House on the Prairie. My favorite character, and really one of my favorite characters of all time, was Mrs. Olson on Little House on the Prairie. Now, Mrs. Olson was not perfect. Mrs. Olson was actually a snob and probably a racist. They didn't have many black people on that show. I don't remember any at the beginning, but at any rate, they didn't have enough on there to put it to the test. But the Ingalls family that didn't have much money were not her favorite people. She looked down on them. They come in her store trying to trade and wouldn't have any money. But she set the tone for how she wanted the community to be. She was a family woman. She was on the school board. She was a community woman. She was a church lady. She set the moral tone for that little town called Walnut Grove. So when you came to that town, you had to meet her standard, which means that if you came there doing something that was not right, Miss Olson was either going to deal with you or she was going to get somebody else to deal with you. She just was that woman in the community. And there has to be that kind of person in a community. And in the pioneering days of Little House on the Prairie, black women pretty much worked in white women's households. These would be the kind of women that Mrs. Olson would hire to work for her. And Mrs. Olson would be the kind of white woman that these women would work for, because they wouldn't work for just anybody either. They wanted to work for people who had money, who could pay them, because white people have never gotten beyond trying to work black people free. So these women had their own standards too. And if they worked outside the home, because some of them did not, but if they did, they wanted to work for wealthy white people. So these women represent the church and more than the church. They represent the society that they live in. So in a way, I appreciate my upbringing. I appreciate the structure, the discipline of the church, and the impact that they've had on my life. There are people coming on these social media platforms saying awful things about the black church. So they went off and established their own religion. Well, I've got news for you. Their religion isn't perfect either. Because I might do some things that you wouldn't do, but you'll do some things that I wouldn't do. So nobody gets to be perfect in this life. You do have to find your best fit. On this channel, I talk about my experience as an African American brought up in the Christian church. I respect the other churches or religions, whatever people say saves them or helps them. But I don't believe that anybody has all the answers to the issues of life. Those answers come from the true and living God, and I have just as much access to that power as anybody else. I believe in God or the Most High, whatever you want to call him. I believe in that. But I believe that is the person who does the correction, and that's where the perfection is, not down here with these people on earth. But for a representative of the God that I believe in, I think these women do the best that they can, and I appreciate them. And I appreciate you for appreciating them, because at the end of the day, it's pretty much all we have. Okay, thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.